if anybody younger usually asks me for advice, I say, you got to be patient with yourself. It doesn't happen overnight usually. And when you hear about overnight successes, like, actors, filmmakers, what have you, it's usually not really an overnight success. There was a lot of time leading up to that moment where something clicked and that person kind of shot up into the public space.
Yeah, because of something they did, and it looks like that
Something clicked.
overnight success. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah. Or they had experience, and then they went to YouTube or something, and then they broke out because they had that type of experience. So, what's LA like for you, man? So you coming from Pittsburgh, going over to LA, that's got to be a pretty crazy transition, especially with the filmmaking aspect, diving into that because you went from like a stream to
Yeah.
like a fucking ocean that's like full of sharks and craziness.
Yeah, it's really like, you're a decent sized fish in a smallish pond, and then
Yeah.
you get into like the big pond, and you're nobody. You're starting over again. You're one of however many other people. And I think, one thing you have going for you if you're a filmmaker as opposed to a performer
Mm.
is, when you're an actor and you move to LA, you're one out of, a 500,000 people here probably, working in front of the camera. When
Yeah.
you're a director or a writer, something like that, you're maybe one out of 10,000, which is still bad odds. It's tough odds, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's less jobs as a director than there would be as an actor. So the competition's even tougher. So maybe it's not that much easier after all, but it at least, you're the one thing, you're not going to show up at a cattle call. You're not going to show up for a part and there's 70 other people that look
Please
just very
hire me.
same.
It's like, please
Yeah,
hire me.
which is that's dehumanizing. That's hard on people, I think.
And I think you coming from that background of actually making your own stuff is really cool because you can just like go, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I'm gonna get some money together and shoot something and see what
Yeah,
happens, right?
yeah. There's you're by nature a self-starter, so you're not just sitting waiting for a phone to ring or an email to happen or what have you. You're I'm just used to making my own things happen, and really almost all my films, like with one exception, one or two exceptions, maybe nothing's ever fallen into my lap. No one's ever just sent me a message and been like, "Hey, we want you to make this movie. Will you help us?" And stuff. I
Right.
a few times I've had someone be like, "I know the guy who could do this kind of thing," for like a documentary or two or something like that. Just, the thing you realize is like there's a lot of people who have healthy egos out here. The
Mhm.
amount of people who really have the skill set required to take a film from an idea to completion to distribution, um, and really make that happen, that's a smaller amount of people. And as you go on, what I found is there's an attrition too, where X amount of people just say, you know what, this is too hard. I could make a better living doing anything else practically than this. And the amount of rejection, the amount of criticism you get, you work your ass off for 2 years, 3 years on something, and it comes out and you'll just have someone on IMDb or something be like, this sucks.
It's
And that's it.
crazy, dude.
That's their whole
Yeah.
that's their whole analysis on something that took you all this blood, sweat, tears, time to make. It's easy to do. It's easy to dismiss, right?
Yeah.
It's harder to generate. It's harder to create.
Yeah. It's definitely you can't feed into that I would say feed into the comments of what they're comparing it to, right? Because they're comparing it to like
Well,
Marvel or these
yeah,
big
yeah.
movies. They got these,
Or
they've got what 40 million, and then they got
or
A budgets for 40. Go ahead, man.
yeah. I mean, you're making something for 150,000 or 300,000, and they want to compare it to John Wick or something, which is like $40 million, and you're like, it's. I always say like that's not even apples and oranges. That's like oranges and cinder blocks. It's not even remotely the same thing.
It's
So
crazy.
yeah. But at the same time, you don't want to release something and say, well, give us credit. We didn't have much money. Like you
Yeah.
want to. I want my smaller budget indie films to perform on a level and look and sound on a quality level very close to the stuff you'd see on Netflix or something if you watched, whatever. We don't have the moving parts that they do. We can't, we don't have the access to as many special effects, stunts, squibs, helicopters, what have you. So the answer to that is you try to write just a compelling story that doesn't need those things. You try to, I mean, you have to be creative by nature. You have to be creative and resourceful, and look at the assets you have at hand, or what you can beg, borrow, steal, you know,
Mm.
pull a favor, and work with that. Yeah.